Douglas Adams quotes the writer of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. There is a theory which states that if ever anyone discovers exactly what the universe is for, and why it is here, it will instantly disappear and be replaced by something even more bizarre and inexplicable. There is another theory which states that this has already happened. There is no such thing as fact, other than what you, the individual, perceive to be. So don't ever see a video or opinion shared as a threat to your beliefs. Because right or wrong, there's still a learning experience from it for both. Out of love, I do it for you with the goal of harmonious alignment. It's easier to live in the darkness we see around us. Confronting ourselves is hard. But I imagine whoever is reading this has worked hard for a lesser cause. I believe in you. All you need is to mirror the world you want to see, not the world that's projected. If the world is a stage, you are the projector and director. Avoidance, at their core, are individuals caught in an intricate web of self-protection, wearing a carefully crafted mask that shields them from vulnerability. Beneath this mask lies a person who has never truly experienced the freedom of being authentic in their relationships. For them, intimacy feels like a threat, and their response is to control, withdraw, or deflect anything to avoid emotional exposure. They often operate more like machines than humans, detached and calculated, prioritizing control over connection. Their self-image becomes their primary focus. They project a facade of innocence, selflessness, or even indifference to preserve their emotional armor. But here's the truth. This carefully curated exterior often masks the reality of unresolved trauma, fear, and insecurity. That trauma drives behaviors that are, ironically, the opposite of the personas they present. Their walls make them appear arrogant or selfish, not. Since 1945, the United States has pursued its global interests through creating and maintaining international economic institutions, bilateral and regional security organizations, and liberal political norms. These ordering mechanisms are often collectively referred to as the international order. In recent years, rising powers have begun to challenge aspects of this order. This report is part of a project titled Building a Sustainable International Order that aims to understand the existing international order, assess current challenges to the order, and recommend future U.S. policies with respect to the order. The study will produce multiple reports and essays. 3 are central to the study's assessment of the international order. 1 report defines and scopes the order. 1 examines its status, attempting to create measurable indexes of the order's health. And 1 examines the perspectives of major countries toward the order. This report is the first of those and reflects the project team's attempt to understand that the existing international order, including how U.S. decision-makers have described and used the order in conducting foreign policy, as well as how academics have assessed the mechanisms by which the order affects state behavior. This research was sponsored by the Office of the Secretary of Defense's Office of Net Assessment and conducted within the International Security and Defense Policy Center of the RAND National Defense Research Institute, a federally funded research and development center sponsored by the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Not because they intentionally mean harm, but because their avoidance forces them into survival mode. They can become hypercritical and dismissive of others. unconsciously pushing people away in an effort to maintain control. Their need to protect themselves overrides the ability to genuinely consider others' feelings, leaving their relationships shallow, strained, or one-sided. The tragedy is that avoidants often don't see how their own patterns keep them trapped. Their fear of intimacy denies them the very connection and understanding they crave deep down. To break free, they'd need to remove the mask, confront the pain beneath it, and step into the discomfort of authenticity. But for many, that step feels impossibly vulnerable, and so they remain stuck in a cycle of isolation, disguised as independence. If you're dealing with an avoidant, understand that their distance isn't personal. It's their fear talking. But also know this: you cannot pull someone out of their mask if they aren't ready to let go of it themselves. True connection with them will only be possible when they choose to face the truth within. Until then, the facade remains their prison. I remember a teacher telling me that even though I got a question right, I didn't do it the right way. I thought to myself, as long as we both reached the same destination, why does it matter what route we took? I was labeled with ADHD at 6. I never understood why I was told my brain was too fast, but slow.
See, Stanford research shows that 90% of your childhood beliefs stay with you for life, unless you actively rewrite them. And they, governments, corporations, media, know this. That's why they aim to shape your mind when you're young. Because if they can control your beliefs, they don't need to control your actions. You'll do it for them. But here's the glimmer of hope. While your subconscious may have been programmed,
the order's legitimacy rests on states believing that participation in the order benefits them directly. And this belief is being shaken by various economic and social trends. Any of these three types of threats prove fatal to the post-war order as we know it. This report represents the first publication of a 2-year Rand Corporation study on the future of post-war liberal national order. The project as a whole is set to examine 3 overarching issues: nature of the order and its measurable effects, risks to the order, and options for U.S. strategy going forward. This report offers context-setting analysis that defines the concept of international order. Despite the centrality of order to U.S. post-war grand strategy, the term order has been used in divergent ways by different observers. There is no consistent, widely understood definition of a rules-based liberal order. Debate by surveying the character of the post-war order, drawing on a wide range of sources, including general international relations theory for specific approaches or claims that bear on the origins and definitions of various forms of order, histories and treatments of the order formation process that took place during and after W.W. Tasselin's scholarly assessments of the liberal order and its possible future, examining specific literatures on the causal logic of order, such as economic interdependence and its effect on state preferences and behavior. As part of its definitional analysis, the report, the concept of order in the broadest sense, to distinguish from the closely related ideas of the international system and in the national community, offers a template of the core elements of the post-war liberal order, defines the U.S. approach to that order and the main purposes to which the United States has put the order. In addition, the report defines both the general concept of order and the specific liberal international order in existence today. In par, presume the eventual existence of a structured pattern of relations. Once in place, however, an order need not exercise decisive, even dominant, influence the preferences and behaviors. Many variables influence state action, including the shadow of history, ethnic and cultural factors, and the personalities of specific leaders. In this sense, order is one among many factors shaping the ways in which states conceive their identities and interests. Order's doing so is the subject of debate. From the Concert of Europe League of Nations to the post-war liberal order, order has taken many different forms in practice. Order in the sense of pattern relations can be assessed as either an input that can affect state behavior or an outcome of a stable, predictable state affairs between states, in contrast to disorder or a state of war and violence is a structure or pattern created for a specific purpose. Achieve an effect. The rules and norms surrounding the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, for example, shape state preferences, and ultimately, Schweller contends that Eikenberry's use of the term settled implies intentionality. This distinguishes formal, constitutional orders, such as the post-war liberal variety, from other forms, such as a more emergent balance of power. Eikenberry means settled to refer only to agreed or in-use orders, implying that the term could also encompass balance of power orders. This debate is of less consequence here than the simple distinction between 1. Intentional, institution-based, and rule-based orders aimed at transcending power-based international relations, and 2. Classic, great power balancing systems that can be partly settled in order. Figure 2.1. Schematic. The role of international order. Rand 3.1. Regularize state behavior. For example, peace, general, adherence to rules. Output. International order, developed from ordering mechanisms, for example, alliances, treaties, informal rules.
Experience at Sony, 2008. Total retail value of digital music goods and services was $2.70 billion, which is well short of what would have been needed to offset the decline in traditional. _J. Physical, in sales, 2007, R, and experience at Sony, 2008, is entirely, i.e., the consistent, year ended, with March, these, 2009 nationwide, over the trends. Sony's U.S. sales of physical product has fallen from _J in 2005 to same period. Revenues attributable to digital products rose from in 2005 to in 2007, and only to in 2008, not nearly enough to make up for the loss in physical revenues. Generally speaking, while our digital revenue is growing, though not nearly at the pace we would like to see, as the revenues from our physical records continue to decline, we are becoming increasingly reliant on our digital revenues in order to survive, make the substantial investments in creating, producing, marketing, promoting and distributing recorded music, and bring the public the stars and hits of tomorrow. Without a significant contribution from every conceivable source of those digital revenues, including performance royalties under the Sections 112 and 114 statutory licenses, these goals will not 9. I declare under penalty of perjury that the foregoing testimony is true and correct. Nate.
All of your files will be added here. View tutorials, subscribe.